What up, everybody? You're now tuned to the of Sports Fanatic. I'm your host, Brandon Lampley, back today with another live stream. And please bear with me, people. This stream seems to be a little choppy. You know, having some internet issues, I guess, whatever. So, but we're going to get through it. We here. We're going to get through it. Feels good to be back. You know, took a week off. And it's funny. After I was like, well, you know, maybe take a little time off. It isn't a whole lot to talk about. Man, the stuff done popped up, didn't it? I mean, I was like left and right. I was like, man, see. But that's the news cycle. This one, it looks like is you got that dead period where there's not a whole lot to talk about. Then story after story after story after story popped up. And I was like, man, we got to get on this thing. But, man, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Once again, I got my co-host with me, Mr. John Reed. How you feeling today, sir?
Doing good, man. I tell you what, when you talk about the news cycle, it usually is still dominated by the NFL.
Still dominated by the NFL. Yeah, absolutely, man. Especially this the Texans. They got news on the Texans today. They got the fine for they got a 5th round pick, $175,000 fine because it dated back to 2020. It was closed, and so Watson got out of the facility, and they were paying to work out. It said like $20,000 or something, and the NFL was like they didn't report it. Houston was like, well, it was in accounting, so they appealed it. It was originally going to be a 4th round pick, $200,000, but it got reduced to a 5th round pick, $175,000. So I mean, who knows whether they trying to game the system or what? But I'm not surprised if they were, because it's professional. Owners, teams, organizations find ways to game the system, and they don't until they get caught. They're going to continue to do
it. Yeah. I tell you what, though, Houston doesn't need any more bad news, though. I mean, they need every pick. They need every decision to be correct. And they got a little excitement down there with the new football, with the new head coach. But, boy, they like one of the franchises that don't need any more mudslinging. I still got questions about their hiring practices, the decision-making, the ownership decisions. And that just seemed to me to best be a franchise that should be doing everything at the top of its game. I mean, at the top of their game, for being a franchise who just, I mean, what is this, their 3rd coach in 3 years? I mean, come on, man. Even though all of them was brothers,
yeah.
But it just, to me, I don't know if that, I mean, it just seems to me that the Texans is just a, even going back to Deshaun Watson, it seemed like they've just been a ship that doesn't have a cap and been that way for 3 years, man. So, what's up? So, if anything, they need to always, from this point on, steer the ship in the right direction. Because definitely, they've been like the laughing stock of the league, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. These past 2 years, you can clearly see that they've just been throwing things at the wall, I guess, to see what sticks. They seem like they haven't had no real plan. It's interesting. It's interesting. Now, D'Amico Ryans, the hometown guys, he was drafted by them, played for them, was a very good player for them. I hope he succeeds. He did. Now there's whispers. Did you hear about Jimmy Garoppolo? Jimmy Garoppolo to the Texans? I've heard that. Like, that doesn't make much sense. Jimmy doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Texans, but Jimmy Garoppolo. So I was like, I mean, if I'm the Texans, I'm gonna go ahead and do what they should have done. Draft a quarterback and draft him high. Draft your guy. Go get your guy. Davis Mills wasn't the guy. I don't even know why they even tried to talk themselves into Davis Mills.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Go get your guy. You're the Tech. But
so where they got the number 2 pick? I mean,
what you talking about?
What's the Houston picking in the draft? Number 2?
Number two. I think they are number two. Yeah, I think they are number two because I know the Bears are number one. I think they are number two. So right.
I use that pick. I use that pick and get what C.J. Stroud. I get a legitimate quarterback I can work with in the draft and build from that. You can't win in this league without a quarterback. Even if you got to wait on him to develop like sort of like the Jaguars did, but I think that's a start. And like I said, I like the head coach. I even question. I mean, why did it just nothing wrong with what they did previously, but I would have probably named the head coach I got now. I probably would have named him a year ago. He was a hot commodity a year ago. Didn't have to wait a year.
Yeah.
Plus, he
Yeah.
played for the
Yeah. Yeah.
franchise.
Yeah.
So I don't know what we got.
Yeah, they could have been did that. You're all right about that. So, but we're gonna leave that right there. We're gonna stay in football. We're gonna talk about Mr. Calvin Ridley. He just was reinstated by the NFL, and he went to the Players Tribune and he wrote kind of like a letter to the game. And I'll talk about we'll go a little bit over this, but we really talk about just him joining the Jags. And so he say to the football world and everyone who loves this game, I effed up. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. In 2021, I made the worst mistake of my life by gambling on football. I paid the price. Believe me. I've seen all the jokes. I've seen all the hate. Yeah, it was a lot of jokes on Twitter. They be killing them on Twitter. And I can shoulder all of that, no problem. All I want is for people to understand that when I made those bets, there was a hell of a lot more going on. This is hard for a dude like me to talk about, but I want to be real with everybody. Back then, I was depressed. I was battling anxiety. I didn't even want to leave my house. Football was the only thing that ever gave my life meaning, and I couldn't even find any joy in that at the time. Honestly, I couldn't even get up off the chair in my living room. Everything was just dark. It started with my body breaking down. Hardly anybody knows this, but I played most of 2020 season with a broken foot. Remember that 1,300-yard season, 9 touchdowns? I was killing it on one foot for real. Actually, I had played through bone spurs my first 2 years, just gritted through it with painkillers. But then my third year, the wheels came off. Week 8, we were playing Carolina. And I remember looking at Julio, and I just know I said, "Nah, bro, this is different. My broke." He said, when I got the MRI, though, the trainer told me it was just a bone bruise, so I kept it pushing. I took Toradol shots every Sunday, and I finished the season. Listen, I know the deal. I'm a football player. It was my decision. I know what we get paid for. You feel me? If it's really just a bruise, I'm going to be out there. We finished 4-12. Then the whole staff got fired. Coach, GM, head trainer, everybody. When a new trainer finally came in, he sent me to a specialist in Green Bay. Then the first hour, the doctor said, your foot is definitely broken. Now, about that right there, players were able to grade their teams on, various things. Of course, the Jaguars failed as far as, I guess, housekeeping with the rat infestation for like they have about 2 or 3 weeks. A couple different places had some issues. I think Baltimore had some issues up there as well. The players talked about, but one of the things that seems to be a concern is I've heard about second opinions on things. Teams get second opinions. Byron Jones just retired, and he talked about how the training staffs did not help him in this process of getting healthy. But I've heard, man, I was messing up
Yeah, it's
again.
fading.
Did you?
Yeah, it's fading in and out.
Yeah, it's fading. Okay, but no, I was talking about the NFL players don't trust the trainers and the team doctors.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, the problem with the why they don't trust them because most of the time They're, I mean, NBA too. They're in a push to push them back out there on the court or on the field. And a lot of times, if they
Yeah.
do get a second opinion, it's going to be from the doctor that they, you know, on their staff or the specialist that they hired by the team. And I think that's been a problem for a long time. That I think a lot of teams, and even in the Jaguars in the past, have they haven't even allowed some in certain circumstances. They fringe upon players going to get a second opinion outside of their own doctors that they hired.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember
Mm-hmm.
back in New Orleans, a couple of players was misdiagnosed, and the only way they found out about the real situation, they had to hire their own doctor to find it out. I remember one time, the long story short, Bobby Jackson. You remember Bobby Jackson, the guard used to play for Sacramento back in the day?
Bobby Jackson. I remember Bobby Jackson.
Yeah, little short Bobby Jackson. He spent most of his career in Sacramento, but he did play for the New Orleans Hornets during the stretch. But they they just I remember one time that they I think they diagnosed him with like a muscle pull, and it turned out that he had like two cracked ribs, and they would have never found it unless he went to his own doctor. But I might have a different opinion than most people about Calvin Ridley. I understand. I mean, I'm glad this young man has come back to the league. He's got an opportunity to turn a wrong into a right. He's a player that obviously is going to help this football team here in Jacksonville. I think he's a talent. I mean, everybody knows he's a talent. He's a number one receiver. He got vertical threat. You look at what he did in Atlanta. There's no question about this young man's ability. But the one problem I got, man, is like I
Yeah.
don't like athletes who, I know a lot of them go on that players tribute, and a lot of things happen, and they want to share their own side of the story, and that's their form to do it. But I understand what he said. I wrote it down. He had a broken foot, bone spurs. What else he's had during that stretch? You hear me? Yeah, bone spurs, all that. But I mean, sometimes, and it's the same thing with Morant. I mean, there's nothing more important than accountability before you take an action. And there's, you can't put it on a. I mean, these guys got all the things in front of them. If you need help mentally, they got that at their disposal. They, you got mental situation, mental problems, a mental illness, a mental stress. You got ways to get that done. If you look at what he went through, what year are we talking about when he did this? It was 20, right? 2020.
Yeah. 2020.
2020 would have been like
Yeah.
the pandemic year. So that was a pandemic year where they wasn't playing in front of the fans. So everybody was going through something that, particularly that season. I mean, 2020 was the first season that they had to go through all the testing. First season that they played probably games without fans. So everybody was going through something during that year. And I like the fact that he confessed, and he basically called it a dumb move to go gamble or whatever he did on NFL games. But the problem I got is this, man. You know, we cannot use what some of the things that pushed us to something that we did. I would have been, I would have felt more
Yeah.
comfortable for really just saying, look, I made a mistake. I did it. You know, nobody else's fault but my own. And without putting that, he was
Mm-hmm.
going through this, he was going through that, he was going through this. I mean, just confess, move it behind. I'm sorry. Let it be bygone, be bygone. But when you start adding this here, it sounds to me like excuses a little bit. And what's done is done. Everybody went through something in 220, so it's not like it's a year where nobody didn't have a whole lot of other sidetracked, a whole lot of things going on during that pandemic year, particularly NFL players. There were some players who was told, okay, if you sit out the year, you're not going to be penalized for it. And a lot of players took teams on that offer, and they got that money. And then when they came back the next season, including several for the Jaguars, they were they were not welcome back. So a lot of players went through a lot of stuff during that time. So I commend him. At least he said the truth that obviously in sort of an embarrassment, he made the wrong decision. Time to move on. Time to get back to football. I heard him and Trevor was talking on the phone that they're gonna start throwing. He's gonna start throwing and all that stuff in 2 weeks. And this guy's a talent, man. There ain't no doubt about it. I hope he
Yeah.
learned a valuable lesson. But once we make a mistake, man, we gotta own up to it. Nobody else's fault but mine. Everybody go through things, but even when people go through things, you still have to conform to what the rules are, man. And you don't want to put yourself in jeopardy where you lose essentially what 2 seasons. So all of it is behind him. I feel. I mean, this kid is a talent, and I commend him for confessing that he made a terrible mistake. But I'm just glad it's behind him and he can move on and see what he can do to help this football team.
Yeah. Yeah. I am definitely ready to see. And what you said so it reminded me of a guy. I listened to him. He was like, he's like, you're always gonna have to mind somebody. He's like, whether it's your parents, whether it's your boss, whether it's the police, or it's going to be the dudes in jail. Somebody you're gonna mind somebody at some point. You're gonna have to listen to somebody at some point. So I think from what I've heard from Calvin, outside of that, like you said, just hey, I'm gambling, I was in a dark place or whatever, blah blah blah. Go ahead and move on. But it's been to talk about mental health, anxiety, depression, and different things people go through. What up, Kasan? Yeah, I know this is probably choppy, so bear with me, guys. I'm still trying to figure out this what's going on with this internet, but yeah, it's I've liked what I've heard so far, and I think he looked like he's chomping at the bit. He resting that time off probably did doing some good. And he said it himself. He said he wear a little GPS watch on his wrist to track his speed. He said he even faster. He said, hey, it ain't lying. So he looked like he's ready to go. And he did. He said 1,400 yards, and
Yeah, he did.
I like the confidence. I like it. He can get 1,400 yards in 17 games. I mean, that's just what it is. Christian Kirk got what 1,100 in 17
Yeah,
games. I think Calvin really can do the same. Especially in this offense. I mean, there's so many weapons now. You got to pick your poison. So I definitely can see that. But you're just excited to see him come on board and see what the future brings. And shoot, also in what they're going to do now. Okay, now you got Calvin. Now, what is your focus now at 24? Who are you going to take at 24? I mean, because you can go a couple of 24 corner, you can go defensive lineman, you can go tight end, and one of those tight ends drop to 24 that you like. That it's an outside chance you could go receiver. There's a chance you can go interior offensive line. There's so many ways you can go with it now, but not hearing the Jaguars are picking the 5. That's good enough for me. I mean, I just don't want to be picking in the top 5, especially years after picking back-to-back number ones.
yeah. And the overall thing is that it's Ridley comes in. You look at Christian Kirk. You look at Evan Ingram. You look at just the receiver unit in general, man. That this might be one of the better groups that they've had in a long, well, obviously in a long, long, long time. But I always feel that, I've been saying this for 2 years. If you
Yes.
always have to put weapons around Trevor, I mean, you know, I like the fact that they got a veteran number one receiver, the polished receiver. I mean, another thing about this guy is he's a great route route runner. He can get off press coverage. He not just the speed to be a deep threat, but he is an excellent route runner. He can get open when you're not supposed to get open, and and you add that with what you already
Yes.
have. I mean you talking about Kirk and Ingram, what they had career yardage. I mean, you know this, and I always said this. I always thought, and I've said this before. I always thought that in the off season that the biggest problem here in Jacksonville was that we we would we would come in the season and be too optimistic, and then we couldn't prepare for the big letdown. By the end of September, going into October, it's just like we have to sputter through a big letdown. But I really feel, and a lot of other people feel, I mean, you can hear the conscious talk around the league. The talk was at the combine that this, I mean, this team has weapons, man. This team has elite weapons. It ain't just that they have weapons. They really have, in my estimation, they got elite weapons. If you stop one, he's got two, three other options. I always said since last season that, man, I wish these guys would get another vertical threat, whether it's young or not. I still feel, hey, if it's something available in the second or third round and it's a receiver that got have some speed, then go get another one, add another one. But I feel a lot better about this wide receiver group now than I did a year ago. And when you put a veteran guy like a Calvin
Absolutely.
Ridley with this young group, and you got that quarterback that can make every throw, you got something special. And I think they got something special. I mean, you got a good play caller. I mean, not worried about the offensive line, and I just feel Ridley's gonna bring something to this team that we ain't seen in a long, long, long time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to remember that Ridley is only 28 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's only 28, so really he's going to be able to, another 5 years or so of really good play. I think you can get out Calvin, especially if his body. This is body willing. You can get some good years out of him for the next 5 years. So Calvin really will years or so. And let's see what up, Dale. And let's say he said, I agree, own up to it, speak on what you learned and the steps you've taken to get better, then keep it moving before another test will come. Can't wait him on Bill test armstring. Let's go deep. Duval. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
And Dale say really could be our next Jimmy Smith. Hey, that's high praise, but hey, I was talking to a coworker today. He was like, when he got all that stuff, they had Julio drawing coverage, whatnot. But Julio Jones the dominant Julio Jones by the time Calvin Ridley was there. And then they were to Calvin Ridley's side of the field. So, dude, you can't disrespect Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, he's very good. But definitely to do damage downfield. We did damage with this group. Now you've added a vertical threat. Ooh, we may be saying thunder and lightning again. Duval.
And that'll be an excellent thing. Another thing, just right quick. When a guy sits out two years in his prime, and he
Uh,
definitely want to get back in there.
absolutely. I give once again to Trent Ball. I do. I, I can't rap about him. Said stuff about him. Say, hey, Balky need to go. Fire Balky. Yes, I was on that train. So since I was on that train, I think Balky is proven that he belongs. And things can always change. But at least for
I ain't about to get on that train. Nah. I still waiting to see on Mr. Balky. I haven't heard a whole lot of talk right now what they're gonna do with Jawan Taylor either. So I'll wait on that gravy train. I'm not ready to have Jacksonville yet.
okay, there we go. Man, this junk is really bugging me. But hey, it is what it is. So you bring a bunch to this offense. Just watch. Oh yeah, absolutely, Dale.
Yeah, I ain't ready to anoint Trenton.
I know what yeah.
I still think the jury's out on, in my opinion. It's still breaking up.
Want to be one. Now go ahead.
Man, I don't know if we breaking up or we on. Hello. Well, for those out there who can hear me, as I said earlier, I'm not ready to anoint Trent Baalke. I mean, I like some of the moves he made. I definitely like the addition of Calvin Ridley on the football team. They still got some decisions to make on some free agents. I definitely don't have a problem with him with with Shaq Griffin. I mean, I think he needed to go. I don't think you reward a guy who doesn't have, hadn't had much production over the last 2 years. But I'm still waiting to see how he's going to draft. Is there going to be, talks on giving Evan Ingram an extension? Those things got to come into play.
All right, I think this is, I think this is an issue with StreamYard. I don't think this internet. I think this. So I'm gonna have to see what this issue is. All right, can you hear me, Mr. Reed?
Yeah, you're fading in and out, coming in and out. And your screen locked.
In and out. Yeah, I okay. Yeah, I see. Okay, I see you now, and I can hear you. I couldn't see you or hear you before. You say we frozen. Yeah, I see we frozen. This wasn't even frozen. It saying they had turned all the way off. Okay, I can't. All right, there we go. It's still breaking. Yeah, I think this got to be on the end of this StreamYard end because my internet ain't got no other issues. So, all right, is it okay? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you just faded, but I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, let's see. We're gonna try to continue. If not, then we'll just shut it down. And then I got to figure out what's going on. So let's go. All right, we're gonna stay in the NFL. We're gonna move on to Lamar Jackson. Get on up out of here. And it's been very interesting. And let's see. So these NFL teams don't want to acquire Lamar Jackson, and the reason why seems painfully obvious. That was amazing to me when he got tagged with the non-exclusive tag, and it allows him to go negotiate with other teams, and the Ravens have a chance to match. And if they don't match, they get two. For what purpose would you have of saying right now that you're not interested? Why do you even need to publicly mention that you're not interested? It is still breaking up. But can you hear me, Mr. Reed? Can you?
Yeah, I heard some of it. I heard parts what you said. Yeah, but
Okay.
you're right.
So,
You know,
right. So let me see. They say every year. No, yeah, I was saying that the team's talking about them not being interested. So I'm gonna go through this real quick, and then we'll talk about it. If the internet permits us to. See, every year we are reminded with absolutely zero uncertainty the NFL is a quarterback. You have sometimes it's not enough. Just ask the Raiders who shuffled Derek Carr in the free agency a year into a newly signed contract extension. Teams routinely pay outrageous prices in terms of current and future draft capital to move up and take a flyer on an unknown commodity in the draft. And yet, when Lamar Jackson became available for any NFL team via Baltimore placing the non-exclusive franchise tag on the starting quarterback, not one NFL team is interested. This is a former MVP we're talking about, one of the most electrifying athletes in all of professional sports, a legitimate franchise quarterback who turned 20. We've seen the case of a quarterback being dangled like this for all of the quarterback needy NFL teams to come after him. This is a cutthroat league where the margins are thin and having the quarterback separate you, not just in the ability to pursue a Super Bowl, but also in fan interest both locally and nationally. The Carolina Panthers are largely irrelevant on the national stage. The Panthers with Lamar freaking Jackson, that team getting multiple primetime games every year and the immediate favorite to win the NFC South. The exact same case could be made for the Atlanta Falcons. And my goodness, Lamar recreating Vic 2.0 and some red, white, and black unis would be incredible. Will be aesthetic, however, because Atlanta, much like Carolina, along with seemingly every other QB needy team in the NFL, just isn't interested in attempting to even pursue Jackson. They're not even going to check in and see what Jackson might want. Negotiation, and the reason seems painfully obvious. NFL owners are adamant about squashing out the idea of quarterbacks getting fully guaranteed contracts. And I think that this is what this is about. I think this is his run quarterback fully guaranteed. And NFL owners as a whole don't want to give out those contracts. They are pissed at the Browns for giving out Deshaun Watson's contract, for them giving him that contract. And they do not want to give that contract out to any other quarterback. They don't want to give out that much in fully guaranteed money. But here's the rub. Didn't Kirk Cousins just get a couple, two of his contract, 2 or 3 contracts fully guaranteed? That just happened, didn't it?
yeah, what happened in
Yeah, I mean the
218
last 2 contracts. I know that first one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it wasn't
he
$236
signed 2
million
straight
dollars,
contracts, both fully guaranteed.
Yeah,
It
I've always
wasn't,
said
but it's man. I don't know. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I always said the problem in this league is the owners.
No.
Yeah, the biggest issue in this National Football League is the owners. The owners do not, as you said in the article, they don't want to start a president. They don't want to start giving out fully guaranteed money. Whether it was Kirk Cousins first, you look at the years between Kirk Cousins and now, they don't want to start something where they're going to give out guaranteed money. That's what this is about. And if they could take it back, if Cleveland Browns owner would have been in conjunction of what these owners thinking, then they probably just didn't get him in the room enough to convince him not to offer that type of money to Deshaun Watson. It's just, I mean, I don't like the ownership. I think these guys, you know, so a lot of people got problems with the NBA, but I feel that the NFL is fighting a battle where they do not want to have the players have as much control of their league as the NBA does with their players. And the sidetrack that to keep that from happening. I mean, they don't want to be a league who extends guaranteed money. I mean, it's that simple. And I feel when you look at both leagues, I feel the NFL players should have a right to guaranteed money, probably more than the NBA player because of the length of the other. I mean, NFL players don't last in the league as long as NBA players. So that makes me think that they should have more access to guaranteed money. But it is what it is. These owners are strong minded, strong willed. They collaborate, they stick together, and that's exactly what they've done. They
Mm-hmm.
they done been in a room and they done said to each other that we're not going to be a league that offer guaranteed money, particularly in excess of 200 million. We don't want to start that. We don't want to have that as being something to have in our league. And you want to call it collusion? Yeah, it is collusion because they all. I mean, let's just go with examples. I mean, the Atlanta Falcons, who don't have a quarterback, but was the first team, one of the first team to come out and say we're not interested in Lamar Jackson. I mean, come on, man. This ain't rocket science.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to the commissioner.
Atlanta
I
Falcons are
think,
terrible.
yep, it goes to the owners. I think whatever was sent, they want to have the same message being sent out, and they're not going to extend a contract for $236 million of guaranteed money. and, and look here, I heard something about this. Why would the New York Jets? I'm just saying. Let's just throw the Jets out there. Why would the New York Jets, when they gotta pay, if they're interested in Rodgers, you're gonna pay the final 2 years or whatever left on his contract. You're not gonna sign him just for 2 years. You're gonna extend him if you bring him to New York. If you're willing to do that, why would you not be willing for a player who's been an MVP? What is he? 20? How old is Lamar Jack? 28, 26? He's not 30. And why would you not?
26.
He's 26
26.
years old. 26 years old. He's been a league MVP. And if you do the math, you pretty much, if you're going to chase Aaron Rodgers and pay him that kind of money along with trying to extend him, you almost should be willing to pay Lamar what he's asking. And you get more years out of the deal. And you got a 26-year-old quarterback that's basically you could center your future of the franchise around for at least the next, who knows, 8 years, 9 years, who knows. But the problem is the owners, man. The owners have got it. They've said we're going to squash this. We don't want to set this precedent where we start something that we don't want to continue on, change the financial dynamics of the game, and they're in agreement. I mean, that's what it is. They're in agreement as owners that we don't want to start something that we don't want, And I just think I think it's crappy. I think these owners are ruling this league in a way that I'm not gonna say it tarnishing the future of the game, but it's these players to me is almost powerless. I mean, they're almost to a point. Why even have a union if your union can't back you, can't come out and just the system is flawed in the NFL. That's the bottom line. There's no other way to say it. It's flawed. It's been flawed. Um, I can go back when Reggie White and those guys tested free agents and all the hell they had to go through just become free agents. And we're not talking 30 years ago about that. We're talking early 90s. And then you go from that to now they're trying to restrict guys from, if you good, you good. If you good enough where you want to have insurances of guaranteed money no matter what happens, you
Yeah.
know, I think the owners should be willing. I wouldn't say guaranteed money for everybody in the league, but at least start something to put it in the vested interest of the players who we come to watch the players. And that's the thing.
Hey, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, come on. That's that BS. I don't know. I might have to end the show right here, guys. We had a few more topics. I definitely want to talk about John Morant. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. But I don't think Mr. Reed is gone. He hasn't come back. Hopefully he comes back. And now it look like it done cleared up a little bit. Isn't that something? Okay, he can hear me now. I was about to go ahead and call it, Mr. Reed, because I couldn't hardly hear nothing. You were saying that you were going in and out, and my thing going in and out. So I don't know if this is an issue with StreamYard and I don't know. I'm gonna get this rectified because this is getting my nerve. But it is what it is. But the fully guaranteed contracts is all. This is all this is about. And I see Dale these comments. Dale say Lamar Jackson and more. You know who knows? With the situation, I believe Lamar can win the Super Bowl. With those receivers in Baltimore, I don't know about that though. Least I think they had the second least on wide receivers in the league. That tells you a lot right there. See, when the QB's main weapon this is running, and the first thing you lose is your speed, you can't throw from the pocket on a consistent high level base. Have about the first 5 to 7 years to win it all, and then it's over. Just my opinion. Well, he's going to have to continue to develop, of course. But hey, yeah, you're entitled to your opinion. I take Lamar any day of the week. That's they say that you wouldn't touch Rodgers. A lot of people they say, hey, they not touching Aaron Rodgers, man, because you're going to give up the farm and you got to pay him $50 million. That's a lot. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. And it's funny. Rodgers and the Packers are doing this whole rigmarole, doing this whole dance. It's almost the same thing they did with Brett Favre, and they're gonna end up right back together. I just got a feeling Rodgers isn't going anywhere. Oh,
Know,
speaking of Kelvin Beachum, if you remember Kelvin Beachum, former Jaguar Kelvin Beachum called out Kyler Murray. He said, I'm not saying that he's immature. It's just that he needs to grow up. That's what he said about Kyler Murray. I saw that today. I say, man, your own offensive linemen are calling you out. I mean, that's a lot, man. You say, okay, so let's really think about this as an owner. What do you do as an owner and really get out of a guaranteed contract in football? Arguably the most violent sport on the planet, a sport where getting injured is almost guaranteed more than your contract tenure. Somebody is getting the short end of the stick. question is who's getting screwed.
It's a good point.
When it comes to that, though, I understand. That's a good point. I get from the owner side, and I absolutely get it from the player side. But for the NFL to make as much money as they make, for their players not to have those contracts, because there's a way that they could do those contracts to where the team won't take as big a penalty and the player doesn't need either. It's all you got to do is make the contract shorter. Shorter term contracts, make them fully guaranteed. Players will have an issue.
Yeah, make them shorter.
I don't think players have an issue.
Well, I think the players need guaranteed money. That's what I think. And I'm just not talking about signing bonus. I mean, they had more risk than any other athlete in professional sports. So
yeah,
I can see their argument for having a guaranteed deal. Maybe a 3-year deal, so cut the length of the contract. But I mean, to be honest, I mean, why should an NFL player not look at the NBA, not look at professional baseball, and say why they got that and we don't? You know, bottom line is the NFL Players Association probably the least powerful union of all the professional sports, including hockey. Even hockey has guaranteed money. So, you know, some of it is the players' fault. The players doesn't
even
want to
hockey.
lose. Yeah. Some, you know, NFL players don't want to lose a check, so they're not willing to strike, which is probably the only way they're going to get guaranteed money. So they got to get a stronger union. And then they got to stand by their principles.
This is a good question, Mr. Reed.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah. Would you pay Jawan Taylor $18 million a year?
Nope, I wouldn't. And I don't think the Jaguars either.
No. Mm-mm.
And I commend Jawan. I mean, you know, if you could get that amount of money in the open market, it's more power to him. I mean, you know, if a team is willing to pay that for him, then more power to Jawan Taylor. But I don't think that price. I don't think that fits to the market and the team here, that they're going to pay that much for a right tackle after you done paid I forget what the number was for Cam Robinson, but you're not going to pay that money in addition to Cam. So I don't think he's coming back, to be honest. I think if he would have came back, they would have announced that signing probably this past week. I think he's going somewhere else. And I don't think that they want to spend that kind of money to keep him. And then, they probably draft a tackle, and then you got Walker Little. So they're not in bad hands.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. So, yeah, man, this stream, I don't think it's getting any better because it's getting to the point where I'm hearing every other word from you, so we can't even have a good dialogue right now. So and it's giving me the signal that it's messing up again. So let's go. We're gonna go ahead and end it right here, and hopefully we can pick it up. I'm gonna pick back up next week, and I want to rectify this issue. But we'll have to talk about Mr. Ja Morant at another time because I really wanted to get in on Ja Morant, but we ain't gonna be able to have a good conversation with this. I can barely hear what you're saying. They seem to have no problem hearing what we're saying, but I don't want to continue to do this. So, man, we're gonna end it right here. I appreciate you guys who are tuning in, who stuck through the choppiness. I appreciate y'all, and we're gonna try it again next week. Let's see what to get last of these comments. They'll say nothing against Taylor, but a base question: how much of his success was due to a quicker offense and release from Trevor? I mean, last year we're gonna give everybody mulligan because of Urban Meyer, of course. But the guys who didn't play so well that Urban Meyer's last year, the year before last, they played well going into this past season. So it is what it is. Oh, he's at Ness is choppy on that end. Yeah, I know Ness. It ain't stopping. It's gonna keep going. So that's why we ending it here. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on all my social medias. Follow Mr. Reed on Twitter, and we will be back with more videos, man. I appreciate y'all once again. And I'm mad this ain't turning out how I wanted to, but hey, it is what it is, man. You got to roll with the punches, so man. But once again, peace out,
Technology. Peace out.
Yeah.
Yeah, ain't even shutting down, man.
Now I'm
All
stuck.
right,
I can't even. Isn't that something? Yeah, it's not even shutting down. Wow. There we go.